Go for it.
Okay. All right, guys. I'm so excited and honored that I was even asked to speak to you guys today. And I'm excited to share just a little bit about some of the lessons I learned in leadership. And honestly, I learned some of these the very hard way. And some of you may know my story and some of you may not at all. But I'll give you a quick summary just because it will have, my points make a little bit more sense when you understand my journey a little bit more. So basically, my husband's in the military, and we started when we lived in New Orleans, Louisiana, and we were away from our comfort of our friends and family, far away, what it seemed like anyways, in North Carolina. When we moved there, we knew absolutely no one. We didn't have children yet or anything like that. We were both just getting started in our careers. And I had a very good friend reach out to me and share Arbonne. And I loved the products, used them for about a year, but it wasn't until our life changed a little bit and we started looking at, having children and starting a family and what our options were and things like that, that I finally swallowed my pride, called my friend up and recognized that in that whole year of me using those products, that I actually was referring everyone under the sun to her because my skin improved, my health improved, and all these things happened. And so I would constantly be telling and sharing Arbonne to my coworkers and my sisters and my friends and just referring them to her. And even though I had all the misconceptions and things that most people have, I realized, I was doing Arbonne and that this is something that maybe I didn't know it existed, but it actually could be the answer to our prayers and what we were looking for at that time of our life. So long story short, I jumped in and I basically looked at this as I had, everything to gain, nothing to lose, which is, I think, typical when people finally make the decision to do this incredible opportunity. However, we found out we were expecting our first child in 2 months into my business. And so I had to get serious pretty fast and replace that full-time income because that was initially my why in starting this, was just to make enough money to where I could leave my corporate job and stay home at least for a little while, because I thought very small at the beginning. And I'll be honest, that first year, or 10 months even in Arbonne, I was very successful. I grew really fast and I was excited and we were momentum. And as soon as I had that baby, all I wanted to do all day was stare at that baby. But I will tell you guys, I've never not done Arbonne. I've never put it down. I've never quit working. I just stopped working smart. And I learned, that was one of my first hard lessons, was learning to work smarter, not harder necessarily. And recognizing how to build this business for the long term for you and your families. And so what I realized was I lacked a lot of confidence because during that time, I grew a massive leg, one massive leg, and they're amazing and they're still amazing today. And I focused so much on that leg because that's where I was comfortable. And I got comfortable in my business. So I was working Arbonne, I was doing Arbonne per se, but I was staying in my strong leg. And what I really quickly realized when I was an area manager, I promoted in October of 2011, and I remained an area manager until June of 2016 for a while. And I learned so much about leadership and this business, and I learned to think so much bigger. My prayers became bigger, my dreams became bigger, but not only for myself, but for everybody in my organization. But at the time when, I promoted two regional vice presidents that were in one line, basically one leg, stacked on top of each other, I, quickly saw the difference of that left side of WebStats versus that right side of WebStats. And I learned that I found myself excited and nervous every time I got promoted, but I was waiting on leaders before I could move forward. And not only was I waiting on leaders in my organization, I was waiting on my leaders in my upline to back me up and help me. And I learned I had to be the best player on my team. I had to be the leader of my organization. When I was doing those bubble charts at the end of every month or the beginning of every month or when it is that you do it, I realized I'm the very top circle. I'm the top bubble. And for me to step up and lead from the heart and lead with courage and show people that doesn't matter what happens in this business, doesn't matter what your journey looks like, you're always able to overcome it, because that's business and that's life, and not everything's perfect and not everything happens in the time frame we want it to happen in. But no matter what your title is, because by the way, title doesn't make you a leader, courage makes you a leader. No matter what, your title is today, you are the leader of your organization. And I learned that I was in a place, even as area manager for years, I was in a place where there were people in my organization that were working and praying and striving for the goal that I was living in. There were district managers in my team that were pushing and working for area manager and consultants. And I learned when I got to region that there were area managers in my team that were pushing and working and striving for region, and so on and so forth. And so I realized I had to be thankful for where I was. I had to be thankful for my journey, and recognizing that the hard is what made me even stronger and a better leader for my team. But I also had to learn I couldn't constantly rely on my upline to be the leaders, because things that made me nervous, things that made me uncomfortable, things that made me truly get outside of my comfort zone, my go-to was to step up and ask, back up from my upline, which is exactly what we do. And that's what we're here for. But I learned until I had to see myself as the upline for my team, because I think what we also all know is that in Arbonne, you don't need an upline, you need a downline. And although our upline's incredible, I mean, obviously you guys know that they're unreal and amazing and give us all the tools, and they're always there. But actually stepping up and becoming the upline of your organization, regardless of what your title is there's so much power behind that. Because what I realized is that my organization and the people that I was sponsoring were following me. They didn't even know my upline. They were following me. So I was the face. I was the very first face of Arbonne for them. And when I paved the way and showed people what was possible, they followed suit, because people do what you do. They don't do what you say. I learned that. And so I learned to see myself at the top of that circle. And I learned that I needed to become the upline. And I also learned to teach people to make this personal and grow their own business in their own way. Meaning, we have all these amazing tools. I mean, our website with our getting started training and how to do events and all of these things, our cards to do presentations in person, virtual. I mean, we have the tools, but I always empower everyone who joins and, it becomes part of this amazing opportunity to take these tools, but make sure that you keep everything personal to what you're doing. Meaning, like when you're doing virtual events, put in a little personal flair in there. When you're doing a coffee date, be yourself. Don't think that you have to use somebody else's verbiage. Because I was one of those people as an area manager, I thought, I can't go in and act like a VP because I don't have a Mercedes parked in that driveway. And so I lacked the confidence, and I realized that's when I was like, I needed courage. And that's when you can borrow the blee from your upline. But a hard reality that I learned was that you can't influence people that don't trust you. And I never saw myself as an untrustworthy person. I'm not like dishonest or anything, and I don't think anybody else is either, but because I feel like in Arbonne, we tend to find the best of the best, right? But it's not about being trustworthy. What I mean, trust you, is trust you to get them to where they need to be. I needed my team to trust me that I was also going there, that we were locking arms and we were all going to do this together. And the only way my team could trust me in that was to see me out there working and being the hardest working person in my organization. Because excellent leaders build excellent teams. And in order to believe in yourself and step up and believe and, be the leader of your own organization, you must recognize, again, that the title is not what makes you that. You just need the courage. And if you're being challenged right now, or actually I should say, if you're not being challenged in your business right now, that's a great indication that you might not be growing. Because I stayed at area manager for years because I brought in a comfortable paycheck. I was an executive area manager with a pretty solid team under me. And so because my paycheck was good enough for my family, I allowed myself to just keep working small. And then I learned to take myself out of the equation and realize how many more people I could help, and that it wasn't really about me and what my family necessarily needed. I needed to recognize that the more people you help, you naturally get to where you're going. But at the end of the day, that's what really pulls at your heartstrings, is when there's somebody in your organization that can come up to you and say, you have no idea what this business has done for my family. You have no idea the blessings and the fact that you stepped outside of your comfort zone and asked me to take a look at this. Like, my whole life looks different now. Like that, I didn't join Arbonne for that reason. Honestly, I joined because we needed it. I joined because I wanted the time freedom. I wanted to be home with my kids. I wanted to bring home an income. I wanted all these things for myself. And I quickly learned the most beautiful thing about Arbonne, and what makes us so much different than every other business opportunity out there, is that when we help other people get to where they're going, we get to where we need to go, and we're compensated for it, as we should be. But there's so many business opportunities. Every other job I worked in corporate America, when I taught and trained them and showed them how to do my job, I didn't get anything for it. It's just what I had to do, because that's what my salary required that I do. And I was making the exact same thing the very next year. That's the beautiful thing about Arbonne, is we get compensated when we help other people. But what happens is, when we get into this business and we find hiccups and we find bumps in the roads and all these things, we basically come up with excuses and different reasons to stay small and think small. And at the time, I didn't realize that's what I was doing, because I was still doing Arbonne, but because I was thinking small and I was discouraged myself, my team could feel that, because I could say one thing, but I was doing something different. And so that's when I decided to step up and start doing what an MVP does. Because when I was an area manager, regional vice president seemed so unattainable. It seemed so hard because it just felt hard. And I had to realize it's just math. It's just sharing Arbonne with more people and not worrying about the outcome. All our job is just to simply share and make sure that nobody leaves a conversation with us and they don't fully understand what an incredible opportunity this is for them. And so, you know, I learned to lead with vision, because I learned to get vision for myself. I learned to actually see, you know, I got into Arbonne thinking, okay, yeah, regional vice president would be amazing. National vice president would be even more amazing, but I just need this thing. And I put a cap on my team. Without saying it, I put a cap there because I was putting a cap on myself. And I learned to take that cap off and lead with vision, because when you get into this business, it allows you to dream again. And so I poured that into my team. And I said, you guys, this is where I'm going. This is what I've done wrong. I don't want you to make some of the same mistakes I've made, but I'm so excited, because an amazing thing in Arbonne is that you can turn things around so quickly. Every single month, all of our websites say 0 every single month. And it's up to us to decide what's the difference between day 1 and day 31 of what happens in that month, because we get to completely change it. And so we owe it to our teams to not stop, and we definitely owe them to not get comfortable, because when you're comfortable in Arbonne, your team isn't. Your team is very uncomfortable. And that's something else I realized, because just because I was getting what we needed to get by, I was putting a cap on my team and they were uncomfortable. And so I learned to be a consultant again and work like a team of one. So when I saw those web stats every month at 0, I pretended like I didn't have a team, and I was a consultant again, and I was sponsoring, and I was sharing Arbonne, because I also learned volume comes with sponsoring. The absolute best thing we do in this business is sponsor and share this opportunity with other people. And that's what builds a long-term business, yes, for you, but for other people. We don't want boutiques. We want franchises. And you guys hear all these analogies all the time, but let that sink in and click, because it makes such a difference when you take yourself out of the equation and you see what's possible when you help more people. And so honesty and transparency fosters that teamwork. And so I had to get really honest with my team and tell them, you know, this is where I messed up, you guys. And actually I promoted to regional vice president, like I said, in June of 2016. Awesome. So excited. We had a fantastic Ben's bash. I was thrilled. But I didn't get there on stability. I got there pushing volume. And that's ultimately what it was, because I wanted that title so bad. And that's when I really learned sponsoring. And so I had to get honest with my team and tell them, you guys, I've lost my region, but I'm getting it back. And as soon as I owned that and just started acting like a consultant again, I was able to get my region back. And 3 months later, we went nation, which was crazy. But that's the power of momentum, because guys, you can't fake energy. Momentum is contagious, and it's an incredible thing to see in your business. It doesn't matter if you're an executive district manager or you're a regional vice president or you're a national vice president. It doesn't matter. Momentum is contagious. And I saw such power in people and sidelines feeding off of each other, seeing somebody else promote, bringing new people in that were just pushing faster and harder than we had ever seen anyone push before. And it was inspiring. We didn't get caught up in like the comparison trap, and we became an organization that supported each other and fed off of that energy, fed off of that momentum, and everybody wanted to be part of it. And so now I've been doing Arbonne for 7.5 years, and it's incredible to see the people who had ID numbers when I first started that, maybe it wasn't the right time in their life. But things have changed, and now they decide they want to get going. But really, I think the biggest thing they've seen is the momentum and the excitement and the energy that's going in my organization. And people want to be part of a community like that. When working in corporate America for so long, like, I love my coworkers. I'm not afraid of hard work. It wasn't that. But I didn't want people to tell me when I had to be somewhere and all of that jazz. But also, I have never seen a community like Arbonne. And that alone is contagious. And when you're in an organization, in Arbonne especially, that is excited and there's momentum, people want to do that. And so that's where you kind of have to borrow that belief again and create that excitement, create that momentum, and get out there and be the best consultant in your organization, and your team follows. It's the most incredible thing. And so when people feel safe and loved, watch out, because there's no stopping them. And, that action is what leads that momentum. And all of a sudden you will turn around and you won't even recognize yourself, because all of a sudden you are the leader of your organization, where you once thought you weren't good enough or strong enough or wise enough to do it. Because people don't need you to know everything. People don't even need you to have that white Mercedes. They don't need any of that. They just need your belief and your excitement. And they need to know and trust that you know where you're going and you're headed there, and you're not stopping and you're not slowing down anytime soon. And you would love for them to join you, but you're going anyways. That's what people need to see in you. And so sponsoring keeps you in love with Arbonne, because I've learned anytime I had hard days in Arbonne, which, by the way, my grandma used to say all the time, you don't have bad days, you have character building days. And I think that really applies to Arbonne, is you don't have bad days in Arbonne, you have character building days or leadership building days. And so I learned, when I started sponsoring again, I would fall back in love with Arbonne. I would get excited again. And when I wasn't sponsoring is when I felt like in this lull, and I felt like I was hitting a wall constantly. And also something that I've learned from Carlita, and she said over and over again, and I just think there's so much power in it, is to stay humble, because humble is beautiful. And people are attracted to humble leaders. And when you are genuine and honest and transparent with your team, but they also trust you because they see you out there working, they are going to follow you. And they're also going to not have that many bad days in Arbonne, because they're going to say, hey, you know what? My sponsor or my leader or my VP or my area manager, she went through this. She's talked to me about it. She overcame it. I can too. And they're going to be able to constantly pour that belief. And it's just going to trickle down and trickle down and trickle down. And that way you can build an organization of people who can overcome the hard. Because for some reason, people will get an ID in Arbonne and come into this and think it's just going to be smooth sailing. And it's like, I don't know why people think that. I don't know what it is, because it's like when people are first introduced to Arbonne, they think they're too good for it, right? And then as soon as they get that ID number, all of a sudden they think they're not good enough. And that's one of the biggest things we have to do as leaders, is to pour that belief, but we have to believe it in ourselves first. And, those days, like I said, the hard days are building your leadership. They're building your character. And my journey to get to Nation, it took me 6 years. And, I could like throw out a timeline and just say, yeah, look at this growth. And it was like, I remember Danielle Lawyer did this at one of the Impact Tours, and it was so powerful. She had this little chart where it looked like everything was just going up like a mountain. And when you actually zoomed in, there were so many dips and valleys, and everybody's business looks like that. And there were dips and valleys, but if you backed up and you saw it looked like that, just kept going up. But I really didn't. And it wasn't until I learned to just rip the Band-Aid off, be the absolute best consultant on my team, pour that belief in my team, be someone that they can trust that's going to get them there. Even though I haven't gone there first, you know, I'm going there. That's when the momentum happens. That's when the excitement happens. That's when you are just, you know, people are just flowing into your organization. And I learned I had to be the one that they had to trust to get them there. And when you get to that point, that's when you can believe it on your own. And all of a sudden you're going to turn around and you won't even recognize the business you have. And that's where I am today. And it's still crazy even being asked to train or do anything, because I was someone who for so long felt like I wasn't good enough. I don't know why. I don't know where it came from, but I think it's just human nature. Because we see these amazing people in our upline, and they're just incredible, and they're beautiful, and they're glowing, and all these wonderful things. And we see that it's possible for somebody else, but sometimes we struggle seeing that it's possible for us. And you've just got to make sure, as a leader, you have to believe that for yourself in order for your organization to believe it as well. So, Carlita, do you want me to introduce our next trainer?
Yes, please. You can. Yes. That'll work. Sorry.
Okay.
Running back over.
No, you're fine. So I'm excited because the next beautiful soul you're going to hear from is Miss Jill Lyons, and I'm going to cry. I got to get myself together. But she's one of those people that joined my organization that reminded me what was possible. And she's one of those people that happened to join at the right time. And I was like, girl, this is where we're going. You don't know anything. You don't know what I'm talking about, but you're going with me. And she took this opportunity and she ran faster and stronger than I've ever seen anyone do it. And she's amazing. And she shares this daily with everyone. And she takes herself out of the equation, and she pours this belief into every single person she talks to and every single person in her organization. And the evidence is in the pudding. And she's incredible. And I tell people all the time, I'm like, get people in your organization that motivate you and teach you to be stronger and do more and be more. And that's exactly what she is. And you guys are just gonna anything she says is gold. So just know that. But I'm just so proud to do this, do life with her, be her friend, and excited you guys get to hear her today. So take it home, Jill.
I was just texting Carlita and I was like, hey.
Hey, honey. The technical guy's here. He's going to try to reset everything so that it plays like it's supposed to. So if you'll log off, I'll text you and tell you when to log back on. Okay. Okay. Thank you. Thank you, Blair. You can log back on too, honey, if you want. One more second. Okay. Thanks.
Yep.